This is Apotheosis, the official podcast of the Production Designers Collective. I'm your host, Alexander Whittenberg, and I'm so glad you're joining us for the very first episode of our ongoing odyssey into the world of film design. If you haven't already, I encourage you to take a moment to listen to the introduction to Apotheosis. It helps to lay out the bigger picture of what we're doing here and serves as a great prologue to the series. Today, I'm delighted to be joined by Inbal Weinberg and Kalina Ivanov, two brilliant production designers and the co-founders of the Production Designers Collective. Inbal Weinberg received her BFA in film from NYU's Tisch School of the Arts, where she concentrated on production design. After graduating, she worked in various roles in the art department, including as art director on the Academy Award-nominated film Half Nelson. Inbal's first feature as a production designer was Hal Hartley's The Girl from Monday, followed by Courtney Hunt's Academy Award-nominated Frozen River. Inbal's other credits include Pariah, The Last Thing He Wanted, The Perks of Being a Wallflower, St. Vincent, Beasts of No Nation, Suspiria, 3 Billboards Outside of Ebbing, Missouri, The Lost Daughter, God's Creatures, and Pedro Almodovar's The Room Next Door. Inbal has collaborated with director Derek Cianfrance on his award-nominated projects Blue Valentine, The Place Beyond the Pines, I Know This Much Is True, and Roofman, which is currently in theaters. Kalina Ivanov most recently designed The Penguin for HBO, for which she received an Art Directors Guild Award and an Emmy nomination. She also designed the feature films The Boys in the Boat and The Tender Bar, both directed by George Clooney. Her work on the HBO series Lovecraft Country also earned her an Art Directors Guild nomination. Prior to that, she earned a Primetime Emmy Award and Art Directors Guild Award for the production design of the HBO film Grey Gardens. Her long collaboration with director Robert Redford culminated in production designing the period drama The Conspirator. Her other notable films include the Oscar-nominated Little Miss Sunshine, Max, Poltergeist, Rabbit Hole, Maid of Honor, Brown Sugar, The Best Man, Household Saints, Smoke, and many others. Kalina owes much gratitude to her mentor Jonathan Demme, who gave her the opportunity to storyboard his film, The Silence of the Lambs. She is currently serving as a governor of the production design branch at the Academy of Motion Picture Arts and Sciences. Inbal and Kalina met in 2014 and bonded over a shared passion for their craft and community. They decided to start a peer group to provide space for informal conversations and mutual support, and thus the Production Designers Collective was started. It's worth noting that I first met Kalina in 2020, at the height of the COVID lockdown, when I interviewed her for a series I created called The Creative Quarantine Sessions. It was during that interview that I first learned about the PDC, and now, 5 years and change later, I'm so pleased to sit on the board of the collective. It's a great full-circle moment. We recorded this conversation in September of this year. In addition to this episode being the very first, it's also a very special episode as it's being released in conjunction with the 2025 International Production Design Week. And it also serves as a sort of celebration for the great relaunch of the PDC website and the start of PD 360, all of which we'll dive into during our talk. One more thing to keep in mind. Due to the demanding schedules of those in our industry, the virtual studio space where these interviews are recorded is a nomadic and remote space. This leads to inconsistencies in quality when it comes to audio and video. That said, we'll do whatever we can to deliver the highest quality listening and viewing experience every time. Now, without further ado, here's my conversation with my friends Inbal Weinberg and Kalina Ivanov. Kalina and Inbal, thank you so much for joining me tonight for the inaugural episode. of apotheosis. I'm so excited to present this podcast and share it with the world, but I couldn't be more excited to have this be a part of the new Production Designers Collective too, and PD360. It's a really exciting moment in this journey. And I'd like to start our conversation the way I like to start all of these conversations, which is with the big looming question: what does creativity mean to you? And Inbal, I'd love to hear your thoughts first.
Thank you. Wow, what a loaded question. Well, first of all, thank you so much for having Kalina and I here on the podcast. We love chatting anyway, so it's another opportunity to catch up. But also because we're so excited about this podcast being part of this new launch of our collective, and because we love speaking with you, Alex, and we're really excited for the next episodes. So, creativity. I was thinking about that question since you mentioned you may be asking it. I think that at this point in my life, when I'm thinking about creativity, it's a bit about how to stay fresh, how to not fall into patterns, specifically in our profession. We probably start building patterns of design. And so how to kind of break through and always stay current. I feel like creativity is about always being curious, asking questions about things that may seem like a convention, to kind of wondering what's going on and not losing that sense, first of curiosity, but also the sense of wonder, which I think about a lot. Like a sense of wonder to me is probably what has separated the really great artists from all of the rest of us, is to keep being curious, but then always to also be in awe of the thing you're curious about. And so all of that to me is a mix of different aspects of what creativity is.
I love that. And the word curiosity is one that comes up a lot when I ask this question. And I think it is like the key to so many things. So I'm so happy you shared about curiosity and wonder. What say you, Kalina? What are your thoughts on creativity?
I would say it's with one word, a daydreamer. I feel like it's like a state of daydreaming and a state of openness and exploring ideas. That's creativity to me.
I love that. Now, was there a moment in your life, a particular moment or moments where you first felt the creative spark?
Yes, for me, it was at 15 when I was taking a class, a watercolor class, and I was really failing. I was the worst in the whole class, and then, absolutely the worst. And then one
I
day,
have to say, it's a little hard to believe, but I'll take your word for it.
believe me, Bulgaria's a very talented artist. But anyway, in one day, it came together. It just somehow magically with water and watercolor and the color purple and the color yellow and the thing and the vase and the flowers. And it came up and it was brilliant. And I was just like, how did I do that? I don't know how I did that. It's a sense of trance. I went into a trance and I produced that work. And that was when I realized creativity is where you don't have to think about it. You kind of go in a sense of zen and a trance, and there it is.
I love that. You sort of enter another dimension in a way, don't you?
Exactly,
Yeah.
precisely.
Now,
Oh,
how
I
about you,
love
Inbal?
that.
Was there a moment for
What a
you?
great story. I don't have a trans story, but I hope I will one day. I think that,
There's
you know,
time.
exactly, there's definitely time. I think when I think of the earliest sort of understanding that there could be something very powerful in art, it comes to me from like books and movies from when I was really, really young. So I was trying to think of what are my earliest, when I understood the power of being an artist. And one of my earliest memories is this book which I only knew the name in Hebrew. I had to look it up. It's called Harold and the Purple Crayon, and it's a children's book, and it follows this little kid who starts drawing with a crayon, and everything the kid does turns into a reality. Very, very simple visual reality. And he goes through all of these adventures that he draws on his own, and then he misses home and he's trying to find home, and then he ends up just drawing his window and finding his bed. And I think even as a little kid, it was so magical to me that the world was real, right? The world he drew was real. And I connected it to I think one of my second, like, really profound moments of that understanding, which relates more to production design, is the movie Mary Poppins, which I'm sure I watched these, like probably when I was 4. And Dick Van Dyke is drawing. He's like he does street drawings, and he does all these beautiful chalk drawings. And then at a certain magical moment, they jump into the drawing, and they're in this magical animation land. There's penguins, there's a merry-go-round. But like as a kid, the action of jumping into a painting and then being in the world of the painting, it was mesmerizing to me, right? It was like where I wanted to be. And I sort of believed you can be transformed through art. And actually, I think that was probably my earliest inkling of wanting to be a production designer. Obviously, never knew that. But because we create worlds, right? It's like a 2D into a 3D transformation, which I also feel is a film goer, right? So all of that together, I think it's my earliest points of understanding art.
I love that so much. And you mentioned two, the book Harold and the Purple Crayon and Mary Poppins, both of which were huge inspirations for my childhood as well. And I had the good fortune of getting to meet Tony Walton when he came to my school when I was a student at SUNY Purchase, and thank him personally for crafting the beautiful worlds of Mary Poppins that were so inspirational to my childhood. One of the things I was recently talking with Rick Carter about with production design is that time traveling is a part of a production designer's job, and not just in the sense of literal time traveling in a story or going back in time, creating a period world for a film, but really also time traveling through our own memories and lived experiences and using those experiences to inspire the work that ends up on screen, or in this case, that inspires something like this amazing organization you two have created, which is the Production Designers Collective. So I'd like for us to time travel a bit tonight and take a look at the legacy of what you all have created and look forward to the future of what's coming. So let's go back 10 plus years ago, 2014. And I'd love for you all to regale us with the story of how you two came into each other's lives and how the idea of the Production Designers Collective came to be.
Well, Kalina, you go.
Well, I'll start. I'll start, and you can contribute. But she seeked me. Inbal seeked me. She's a determined woman, and and she introduced. She was the introduction to a lecture that I was giving, and she came in and introduced me, and then we really started talking to each other after the lecture, and really hit it off because we discovered that we had the same goals in mind. And we said, like, okay, let's get together and let's sit down and let's really flesh it out. And we met at this coffee shop on 13th Street and Avenue B. That was it. It was Israeli. The coffee shop was Israeli. And we sat down and that was, that was it. That's what it took for us. It was like 5 minutes of meeting and there it is.
Wow. Well, it's
Yeah.
amazing to, and I do want to hear your thoughts in a moment, Inbal. It's amazing how 5 minutes turned into what it is today. But
10, 10 years long. Yeah.
I think that early on we realized that we connect on very like basic things that are very helpful. I think when you're thinking of who to collaborate with on a long-term project, like I think we have the same kind of very like welcoming, open-minded spirit about community that is about inclusivity and being a collective, and just we're always, when we're speaking of our colleagues, we're always so excited for their achievements and so on. So it's this sort of spirit that is very like welcoming and yeah, open
And generous. And generous.
and and generous, and so that was kind of evident from the beginning. And also we tend to have the same opinions about things. Like we,
Yes.
we have the same instincts on people and on how to do certain things. And so I feel like we got each other. Maybe it's the immigrant background could be part of that. And a sort of can-do attitude. Wouldn't you say, Kalina?
Yeah. I mean,
yeah.
I would say the generosity of spirit and
Mm.
the openness. It's and I think that it's not a coincidence that we're both immigrants. you know.
Well, the Production Designers Collective is nothing if not welcoming and generous and open. So I'm curious about the mission and the objectives that you set forth from that initial meeting, or whatever meetings kind of followed that day at the coffee shop, that you formed kind of what was your overall set of goals in moving forward with the collective.
You know what's interesting is that because we just sort of celebrated our 10th year, I was curious to see what was the first email sent out. And I went back to look at the first email, which I found in my inbox. It was sent to about 30 people, all kind of like friends we knew from New York and so on, which many of them are still PDC members, probably all of them. And it's really interesting that I, wrote a very, very clear mission statement that is basically still today's mission. I even wrote like, let's be both intimate and global. And it was
Mm.
a very kind of preachy first email for it to send to 30 people. It's interesting looking back because I totally didn't remember that email or what we wrote, what we wrote in it. But whatever it was very enthusiastically received. So I do feel like our kind of early ideas, Kalina, I think you remember we kind of said early on, this is not a guild or an
Yeah.
association. You have to be invited into,
Mm.
because those exist. But we wanted something more open. And I think also because we're immigrants, we don't have perhaps this veneration of Hollywood that maybe Americans have because they grew up with it. Like we know
Mm.
that incredible work is happening all over the world, and perhaps there's not exact spotlight on it.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
so I think that was one of our core early ideas. What do you think, Kalina?
Well, I mean, I just think that the principles we set up with, like, we're never going to give awards as an organization. It's we're never going to charge membership. We're like non-political. Are very true to I mean, it's the core of us, and it's very true to this day. And I think it's what binds us together.
The usual dynamic between us is I am like always being overambitious about things and trying to like conquer the universe. And Kalina's like, maybe we should like be more realistic about what we can achieve.
That is that is the essence of the two of us.
This is basically the essence of the collective. And I
Yin
think
and the
that
yang.
the truth is somewhere in the middle,
Yeah,
like it was
absolutely.
very helpful to build slowly over maybe 10 years of kind of informal meetups and just telling people about this while we run into them, and, being, like our event like our events happen very haphazardly. It's like, hey, someone's going to a festival. Should we organize a hangout?
Yeah.
And so I think we slowly grew, and I feel like this is a bit of a transitional year, um,
Mhm.
because we sort of grew bigger than what we had
Yeah.
assumed, and now we're trying to catch up to it.
Yeah.
Um, and this all has to do with some of our flagship events, which we'll talk about. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm really excited to get into the flagship events here in a moment. But I will say it takes a certain boldness of vision to go from that initial 30-person email you sent out to what is today over 1,500 members spanning over 80 countries, which is particularly astounding. I mean, really, it's a very short amount of time that that has happened. And I think it's really to be commended. So I have to ask, why is it important to you both to raise the profile of production designers?
Because production design is misunderstood.
Mm.
Because I mean, it's like it's so much of the work of the DP gets credited for production design, or the work of some other artist gets credited for production design. You never know. So our goal has been to educate the general public about what exactly production design is. And I think we are going to go to our graves with that mission.
What do you mean? You don't just show up and the whole world is there for you to
No,
film? I don't
no, no,
understand what you're saying.
no. You know very well what I'm saying.
I know, I know, I know.
I think that also in a more the last couple of years, I also started thinking that it's not specifically just about production design. Of course, we're production designers and we care so deeply about our craft, and that explains why we're advocating for our craft. But I feel like the film industry can be more collaborative on
Mm,
many levels, not specifically just for production design, that we can be more there. How should I say it? That there is so much that people are giving as a group.
yeah,
And so the
absolutely.
sort of pyramid structure that we are used to, which obviously, fine, it's probably one person's vision, but a lot of people make it happen. And that I think our push to make production design more visible is also, in a way, a reframing of the collaborative process to be respectful to everyone's crafts, from, you know, costume design, hair and makeup, producing, the score, soundman,
Yeah,
and so on, like
yeah,
editing, obviously, and VFX and all of them, right? So when you recognize that, of course, we want to advocate for our art. And I agree with you guys. Like, I think it's hard to explain to people. And so we do come across a lot of situations where it's misunderstood. But I just think it's a even more general spirit of respecting the essence of filmmaking, which is actually collaboration, and trying to reframe a little bit the current narrative, which is more of an auteur-based narrative, where it feels like everything sprang up for the director's mind.
absolutely. And I think it's so important that all of the individual departments and department heads you just mentioned are really thought of as thought partners, right? And creating a film. It's not just about what the set looks like, it's about the overall product and how everybody works together to make that vision a reality. I think that was beautifully put. I'm going to jump ahead now to the inaugural production designers gathering, which is an amazing event that I can't wait to chat about with you all here. So I'm curious, how did that start? What was the initial spark that eventually led into that event?
I can jump in here because I think so. I mean, for many years, I personally have had this fantasy that, like, one day we'll have a conference, some sort of, I love film festivals. I love the whole sense of a community getting together. And I always thought, wow, what if only designers got together? But I always assumed it was a sort of retirement project. And um, yeah, during the pandemic, I sort of, as many of us did, like had a big think on my priorities in life. And I thought to myself, okay, my movies may not be my greatest achievements and on my deathbed, which maybe could be tomorrow, seeing as it was deep COVID. I was like, what would I really be proud of? And so it made me think like, hey, we can push the collective forward, and maybe this is the time to think of a conference. Like, people were so hungry for human connection in the
Oh, yes.
early post-pandemic phases. And it just so happened that I very luckily landed on a Greek island to make one of the first pandemic films, which was The Lost Daughter. And I couldn't believe my luck. And I got to know the island very, very well because I was sequestered on it, because we were quarantined on the island. And so next time I think I saw Kalina, we both were at
Yes.
Camarage, exactly. Oh my God, I remember the moment.
Yes.
So we were like, let's explore the idea of a conference. What's the closest thing to it? And it was obviously Camarage is a wonderful festival for DPs, and we organized an event there. So Kalina and I met at the festival, and we were kind of taking mental notes. And I actually remember sitting at the opening night at this big theater, and we're just like waiting. It's a bit boring. And I just look over at Kalina. I'm like, Kalina, what do you think about a Greek island? And then I saw Kalina's eyes open up like this, and she's like, let's do it. Right? What are your memories of that, Kalina?
Exactly that, because I remember like being so bored out of my mind because we were waiting for hours till these speeches to end, like all the Polish celebrities, whatever, giving the speeches. And we were dying in our seat. And she turns to me and says, what do you think of a Greek island? An American or a Greek island? And I said, a Greek island would be great. It was such a moment of relief.
Yes.
It's true. We recognize a couple of things there at the event that, even though it's a wonderful festival, we had a great time. There was a few things we realized were not our vibe, right? Like one of them was this huge night of awards and speeches and all of that, a lot of pomp. We were like, we should do the opposite.
Exactly. Exactly. We wanted to do the opposite. Absolutely.
Well, and I think you all succeeded. Greece has a very special place in my heart as well. It was the place where I was fortunate enough to work on my first big union film for 6 months, and then attend both gatherings, and even propose to my fiance. So Greece is a place that I come back to often, kind of in my dreams, and it has a certain spiritual sense that it's the birthplace of democracy and drama and storytelling and math and so many wonderful, amazing things that come from Greece. And I think you really feel that there. You feel that sense of it's kind of like a sacred space. And so I can't imagine a better spot to host a gathering. And I think you were right on the money with your impulse to have it at a Greek island.
It was beautiful to see people's reactions because, when we first came out with this idea, it was quite wild.
Yeah.
We had to persuade high-profile colleagues that they should, and we didn't, we had basically no money. So we are asking people to come be key speakers, pay for their trip to Greece, of all places, right? Then get on a boat and travel to an island. So the pitch was a bit risky. And luckily, I think exactly what you described, the myth of Greece, it is very strong. Even in the pitch, you could see that people were intrigued by that bit, right?
Absolutely.
And we saw live that is very much in the essence of the event.
Amazing. Yeah. So from that moment where you were dreaming of what this could be, to when it became a reality, how did your dreams kind of translate? Was it everything you had hoped and dreamed? Were there some surprises that kind of caught you off guard? What were your experiences of the actual event itself?
Uh, well, it was for me personally,
Yeah.
it exceeded my expectations. I mean, I remember sitting with Inbal and thinking of the event and us thinking about, well, if we can get 100 people, it will be amazing,
Yes.
and we got 300 people. And so, it really exceeded my expectations on every level. And then the way you organized it with the boat ride, I mean, it was magical. It was absolutely magical from the moment you stepped on that boat to the moment it took you to the island and the island. It was magical. It was really wonderful.
Agreed.
I felt the same. I exceeded my wildest expectations, and the months before were intense. Like the few weeks before were really like I was barely sleeping. It was such high stakes, and I had been dedicating my time to it for a few months, so it was a huge relief. Like actually being there. Like I remember people arriving at the boat like James and KK and Beth, and they're all like there. And I was like, is this really happening? It was amazing. But what I did want to say that, yes, everything exceeded my expectations. One thing I didn't expect at all was how emotional the event was going to be. Like,
Mm,
I think in my mind, it was a great professional development event. We're all going to learn a lot and how nice to connect with people. But there was an added value of very, very strong emotional current that went through the event. People were crying. People were saying the most beautiful things. The gratitude that we received afterwards, it was really incredible. And especially in the last, our last gathering there, our last event where people really stood up and spoke about some of I wouldn't say darkness, that maybe sounds too much, but the struggles of working in the industry and this kind of sense of finding a community, it was a real extra layer of well-being. It really felt when we returned that we were walking on air.
mm.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah, I really agree with that. And I think it also has something to do with, even though it was, well into the whole COVID thing, things had been the vaccine had been rolled out and all that, but there was still very much that sense of longing for human connection that you spoke of earlier that I think was still so prevalent. And to know that this came out of the great what have you of 2020, such a bright, optimistic event, is really inspiring. And I remember hearing James Chinlund that first year sharing about how you had Zoomed with him and he was or I think you were in Ireland working on a project and he was in London and you all were sitting alone in your spaces dreaming of what it could be. And I thought that was a really beautiful moment because it kind of painted that picture of, the kind of solitary lives that we lead as production designers. There is only one production designer on every film, right? So even though you are supported and surrounded by your department and all the other people, and of course you have your family and all, it's really there is kind of that the solitude. There is a certain solitude that comes with being a production designer, and it was really this kind of wonderful therapeutic experience to get rid of that for a weekend and come together. And in particular, as you mentioned, that final day, that final night, marching up to the top of the hill into the ancient theater and sharing reflections turned into be something very, very special and I think unexpected. And that is the very place and the very moment that I had the inspiration to start this podcast, Apotheosis. So I have you two to thank for that. Um, so looking ahead to next year, 2026, to the next gathering, what is your hope for the future of the gathering?
Great question. Great question. I can share a little bit of my impressions from last year's gathering. we are so fortunate to have this incredible island, and I agree the boat trip is beautiful, and we've had really amazing colleagues that have been able to make it. But we have also had many incredible colleagues that are not able to make it because of, the universe. We are a global organization. We have members from the Philippines, from Chile, from Ghana, and obviously wherever you locate the gathering is going to be some issues with affordability and geographical accessibility.
Mm-hmm.
And so we really thought through that, and we asked a lot of gathering participants how they feel about the place, and it's become very clear that the place is very magical and is now really part of the gathering experience. I personally love it so much because it is also part of my filmmaking life.
Right.
um, so a really big question for us is how to create a path for members who would really love to attend but are unable to
Mm-hmm.
in some way, which is a complicated challenge that we're still trying to figure out. But working on creating paths and more visibility for members from less affluent communities so that they can make it to Greece. That's a big one for me.
I love that.
Yeah.
Great. How about you, Kalina?
I have a lot of hopes for the future. I think that it's going to be very interesting. Probably by the next year, we're going to have to tackle AI very seriously
Mm.
because it's coming for all of us, and it's coming very fast. And there are a lot of other issues like that for designers, and I can't wait to have that dialogue with them.
Absolutely. I remember when it first came up in our in the
Yes,
sketching panel in
yes,
2022. And that was
it,
sort of where it all was
yeah.
beginning.
Yes, it was beginning in the mid journey and the beginning, and now it's like it's a term, it's a verb.
It
It's part of
is.
our lives.
Yeah, and
Absolutely.
it's a really good point about the gathering because I feel like some of it runs the gamut in terms of the types of panels and workshops that we have, right? Some are very philosophical and conceptual, and
Mhm.
it's about how to foster your creativity. And others are very technical, and it's really about how to keep our pulse on all of the technical innovations that are happening and how to stay ahead, which is, I think, another great advantage of being a collective and really investing in the community is to encourage one another to really stay current,
Yeah.
know what's going on, stay relevant.
Yes.
And then if you by chance advanced in some way because maybe you had the opportunity to use a tool or, your production went in a certain direction, then you really have a responsibility to all of us to share that, which some of the really beautiful workshops at the gathering did. And we continue to do that year round with events. And you can tell some of our community members are pioneers in a certain, like Kalina's a pioneer on AI.
Mhm.
Uh, and we have other members who are so good at VFX or so good at virtual production. And when a production designer talks to you about that, that is so much more valuable than when another type of expert actually tries to teach you. So, yeah, I think that's a really great added value of our community.
I totally agree. And I think what you all have done really well is found the perfect balance of the sort of technical side of things and the more philosophical side. You know, it's really great to have conversations like well-being at work. That's a really important conversation that I don't think gets talked about enough. Finding that balance between family life and work life and just making sure that you're able to, maintain the relationships that are important to you in life and also learn, Unreal Engine and the software that's coming up and changing the industry in really profound ways. So I think you all have found a really amazing balance there with your programming. Now, speaking of programming, the sort of big mega collection of individual events and programming is another one of the flagship events of Production Designers Collective, and that is the International Production Design Week. And
Mm.
this happened for the very first time in 2023, where there were over 200 events spanning 30 countries, 40 cities, 20 universities, and 13 languages, which is pretty amazing. I'm coming at you live with the stats tonight because they are very impressive. To go from zero to that, having never done this before, I'd say it was a pretty amazing first year for the Production Design Week. And I'd love to hear the origin story of that. How did that begin?
Yeah, so actually, that was an almost exact um, outcome of the gathering. In fact, I also remember Kalina and me meeting in New York like a month or so after the gathering. It was a bit of like a recap meeting and to sort of talk through feedback. And again, as I was saying, we felt very privileged to be there with the other 300 people, but it felt like we should be sharing the spirit with the rest of the world, and not just people who couldn't afford to be there, but our art departments, our collaborators, the general public. Like there's so much that we can share. So
Yeah.
we were thinking how to build a counterpoint event, seeing as the gathering is always going to have a bit of an exclusive air to it, because even just because the island can only fit 300 people, really. So what would be the exact opposite of that? And so we thought it would be very grassroots, very global, and let's just go out and just tell designers, just organize. Like you came back from the gathering and you have the organizing spirit, go nuts. Or you wanted to be at the gathering and you couldn't make it, like do something. And so we went out with a very grassroots sort of like, hey, we're just putting the word out there, just try. And I think our luck was that a lot of gathering people have that sort of organizing mentality, right? It's like the nucleus of organizers in the production designer community. So a lot of them did really feel like they wanted to share that spirit. And we just did our best. Like Kalina and I are really into organizing, and a lot of designers have excellent networks, and it's just about pulling the networks. Obviously, it's a huge challenge because also designers are very busy and their time is precious. But I was so pleasantly surprised by some of the organizing efforts. They're magnificent
Yeah.
programs out there in so many countries. And even, I mean, sort of inspired by the gathering, I think that in the last 3 years, there's more than maybe 5 new production design organizations that sprung up in different countries, from Canada to Sweden to Colombia to Spain. So,
Yeah.
yeah, I think it's working, but it will take a while, like hopefully in 2 decades, it would be a gigantic festival that
Yeah.
everybody will know about.
Absolutely.
It already is gigantic festival. I mean, I think, I mean, it's wonderful. I mean, I really enjoyed. I mean, I'm in charge of LA. For some
Mhm.
reason, I ended up being in charge of LA, but that makes sense because it's only the two of us who run the organization. So one will be West Coast, one will be East Coast. So it makes sense.
Mhm.
But it's very powerful. I mean, it's wonderful when it happens, and you'd be surprised by how many people want to be part of it,
Absolutely.
and bring wonderful ideas. And I remember at the first the first International Production Design Week. I mean, Maggie. What she did with the virtual workshop and the virtual exhibit, it was amazing. It was
Yeah.
absolutely amazing.
It was an amazing project, and I was very fortunate to get to work on that one in particular. Imagined
Yes,
Realities,
yes.
recreating iconic film sets from a number of great films, including The Cabinet of Dr. Caligari, which was really fun because Frida and I were able to hand paint all the textured details that then Jose and Jason, created in Unreal, these 3D environments. And it was this really wonderful blend of 3D technology mixed with the hand drawn media. celebrating a film that was from way back. So this kind of wonderful blending of time and technology. And also we had the amazing, wonderful late Barbara Hall on that project as well as an archivist from the ADG. And she lent her amazing talents and insight into that project as well. So I'm so happy you brought that one up.
I mean, how could I not? I mean, it was absolutely Maggie Ruther did just a wonderful job spearheading it. And I mean, that's just one of many examples, one of hundreds of examples. But it was very
Absolutely.
special. But it was very special.
The domino effect was really clear with that event, from the gathering inspiring the production design week, which inspired the forming of however many groups internationally, and even relationships with other cinemas and organizations that will continue to be relationships beyond just the production design week. So I have to ask, what were some personal highlights? I know, Kalina, you just shared a great one with Imagined Realities. Inbal, what was one of your personal highlights from the last production design week?
So many. I'm gonna mention a few. One of our most beloved events that we were both part of, but Kalina was moderating, is the philosophy of production design, which was Rick Carter's idea. Rick has this group he calls the L7, which is the everyone that's over 70 and has been in the industry for this long. And so we decided to do these panels, which I consider historical because of the talent that was on stage. We had one in New York and one in LA with really legendary designers talking about, you know, their experience in the film industry and the kind of insight that they've been able to develop over decades.
Yeah.
That was incredible. And Kalina, do you want to mention a little bit about that?
Well, I mean, I can only speak for as a moderator. I can't speak. I'm not anyway. But in LA, Rick Carter did a panel with uh, Bo,
Hmm.
Jim Bissell, Jack Fisk, who is
I know KK was there and
Hey,
Janine.
Janine.
Janine, exactly, and Dennis Gassner,
Yes.
exactly. And that was just such a wonderful panel because not only do that are all witty and different and amazing, but to see the relationship between Rick and Dennis Gassner, their deep friendship, it was really interesting to see these connections between these people, that they are not only masters of their art, but they're very good friends with each other,
Mm,
and that's something that I found very powerful. I mean, very beautiful.
totally agree. And by the way, to all of you who are listening or watching this podcast, I invite you to visit the International Production Design Week YouTube page, where you can see that panel that we're talking about and many others. So now we look ahead. We're just a couple months away from the date of this recording from the next International Production Design Week. So, what are you all looking forward to with this year's event?
Well, so we're organizing in serious force right now, and our grassroots outreach call is global and pounding on people's virtual doors to get them to. We've created task forces, and we have work sessions, and um, we thought about a few specific um, initiatives that we're concentrating on this year. One is special screenings. So doing screenings at art house movie theaters around the world with
Mm,
Q&As by production designers. Because we figured what a great partnership. Art house movie theaters are always looking for content. They love these kind of special events. And we are able to coordinate with our, we have members who have made iconic films. So to listen to them speak about it is such a joy. So we're doing that in various cities around the US and countries. And another initiative that we decided to explore this year is collaboration with VFX. So we're putting together a series of VFX related events. Some of them are kind of I've been calling them VFX open house, where we're gonna be, some of the VFX houses are gonna open their doors and do tours and their teams are going to speak about their pipeline. And some of it is just conversations between production designers and VFX supervisors, specifically in films that are very heavy on CGI. So that's a new initiative that's been going really well. Once again, it's a great collaboration because the vendors, the VFX houses, are eager to connect with more designers, and we're eager to sort of help encourage our members to educate themselves a bit more about VFX and get more involved.
Excellent. Excellent.
Kalina, tell about your event at the Academy.
Yeah.
Well, we have an event at the Academy at the Margaret Herrick Library, and that is a very beautiful library that has a tremendous amount of art. And that night, they'll pull out of the many treasures that they have. They pull out some specific for production designers. So it will be one night of production designers. Uh, Highlights basically.
Oh,
I
that's
mean,
great.
last time they had the sketches from North by Northwest, and they had the
Oh,
Hitchcock.
brilliant.
Yes, they had the Hitchcock himself doing the storyboards.
Oh,
So
amazing. And I know that's a personal favorite of yours, isn't it?
it is. Yes, and this year I don't know. They'll surprise us with a lot. I mean, it will be marvelous. Yeah.
So we've had a great time over the past 45 minutes going over the past decade of where it started, where it is today. Now we have nowhere to look but the future. And I think it's a really bright future. So I'm excited to talk a little bit about the future of Production Designers Collective and specifically PD360. So, Inbal, if you'd like to share a little bit about what that
Yeah.
is.
Thank you. Yes.
Yeah.
So, as I mentioned earlier, this year is a bit of a transition year for us. We want to relaunch the collective to um, express where it has come, seeing as it is now a very impactful organization in our community. So one part that we felt like needed a bit of a boost is showcasing our members' work, because we have such incredible membership, from Academy Award winners to emerging designers and people who work in a variety of media within the entertainment industry. And our new website, which we'll launch in October, is going to have a member directory with a lot of beautiful imagery where our members could have a personal page and could showcase their work. I'm especially excited about that because outside of the US, a lot of designers don't have websites. And I think it's finally an opportunity for designers from communities that are maybe a bit more insular to showcase their work alongside, as I said, very high-profile designers. And PD360 is an online community that we're launching, and this comes in the aftermath of a lot of calls to connect from designers, because as much as we meet at the gathering, we meet at events around the year, but we don't really have a platform to communicate on. And seeing as we're a global organization with many time zones and members who work all over the world, it would be so incredible to just basically connect virtually. And so we have created a sort of social network for production designers that our members will be invited to, where you could be messaging with your friends, you could follow other designers, there's groups, there's forums, and it would take the work that we're already doing sort of offline and help advance it online. And I think it would be not just, a fun place to be and a kind of extra place to scroll and find out what's going on, but my hope is that it would move our advocacy work further, because we can be more communicative with each other and share more resources.
That's amazing. And I'm really excited about the sort of sub-communities or groups within PD360. I know one of the things that I'm particularly looking forward to is a design book club. When I need to
I've been
relax.
working hard. I've been working hard on the list for just the first 6 months.
For the
I'm
design book club, that is.
for the design book club. Yes, yes. Which
Amazing.
I have. Yes, design book club. I think I'm gonna be co-moderating, and the hope is that we meet once a month. We read only design related books, more on the kind of philosophical, conceptual, plane, and have hopefully a lively, interesting conversation about it, which we will then turn into a blog post so we can share our thoughts with others.
That's so exciting. It's something that's definitely been missing from my life. Somebody's who can equally nerd out about the books that I turn to when I'm, needing a little break. So I'm very excited about that. Kalina, what are you excited about with the future of PDC and the PD 360?
I am excited to see how my colleagues are going to accept AI. I'm
Mm,
excited to see because some are going to accept it, some are going to reject it, but it's here to stay. And I am very, very hopeful that we as a community would come together to work with it and not against it, you
I
know.
love that. And one thing I really commend about you, Kalina, is that you are so, with a pencil, you really create these amazing sketches and world building through your pencil sketches. And I think it's one of the things that you're most celebrated for. So the fact that you, coming from this background of traditional drawing and sketching, embrace the new technology, I think really speaks volumes to who you are as a designer and your outlook on the world and the bigger picture of what things are coming. And I think it's just a really great thing about you. So just want to
Well,
say that here.
I really appreciate that because many people think that when you draw by hand, you just draw by hand. No, drawing by hand is the original thought, but then
Mm,
you can develop it further, and the technology allows me to develop it to levels I never thought I could achieve.
yeah.
So I'm very excited to see where it can take us.
It's just another form of collaboration, right?
Absolutely, it's
Eh,
very collaborative.
This
Yeah.
is a perfect time for me to plug our first workshop on
Yes.
PD360, which is going to be
Yes.
AI for production designers. Um, we have two wonderful moderators, and Merlin Ortner and Jill Schwartzer. And in fact, I had a meeting with them recently, and we all said AI is moving so fast that they
Yes.
feel like they can't yet figure out their own program for the workshop. We have to do it like 1 month in advance because things are
Yeah.
changing in light here, and yeah, very fast pace. So that's
Yeah.
going to be, however, yes, our first workshop, which is going to happen in November. So
Amazing. And since you
Yeah.
brought up the workshop, I know that there's a plan for these to be sort of extended programs. So instead of just a one-off event, there's a plan to create these workshops that actually last or span up to like a month, right?
exactly, exactly. So we were trying to think about, obviously, we all could use some, every once in a while, a new introduction to a new skill set or deepen our knowledge. There aren't a lot of classes that are specific to production designers. And so we're trying to think of like workshops that would be really helpful, especially for our community, but not just be a one-off session, because we have done those. We will, of course, continue to do them, but they're sort of not as sticky, quote
Mm,
unquote. You want to give a real proper intro to something so that people would be encouraged to look into it a bit more on their own. And the thing we're going to do on the online community is that every group, sort of every workshop, would continue as a group, so that, let's say you took the AI workshop and you're, experimenting, you could always share more. You can return to the group and, showcase your work or talk about new products. And hopefully that would be the case with every workshop. And we're kind of starting it out, and then we'll gauge from our own members what they're interested in. As we all know, the real challenge is commitment, because not only are we super, super busy, but we don't really know our plan for the future. So we sort of figured a month is probably the longest anybody could think forward to. So if we just do a few concentrated sessions, and you, as a designer, you say to yourself, you know what, I have time this November. Oh, they're offering AI for production designers. I could take that, and in another month, we will be offering color grading for production designers. We'll be offering design entrepreneurship workshop. And, we have a lot of ideas. So we're going to start slow and see if it catches on and what our members are interested in. And hopefully this is a great added value to our online community.
Absolutely. I love that you're building community, but you're also fostering the next generation of designers too, and providing a place for these skills to be learned, and kind of, the large base of knowledge that's really needed to be successful as a production designer. Having a space where people can come together and learn together, I think, is so important. And I'm very excited that you invited me to make this podcast an official part of the future of PD360 as well. We already have several episodes recorded that will be released over the coming months. And I'm really excited about a few sub-series that we have as part of this podcast as well, including, I'm very happy to announce that Janine Opawal's very popular essay that she shared in Greece on the making of the film Maria's Lovers has been recorded and will be released as its own episode, along with many other pieces to come. So I know that there is a very high demand to have a recording of that. And we just did it the other day, so I can't wait to share that soon.
Oh my God, tell us a bit more. Give us how was it amazing to listen to?
It was amazing, and going back to the gathering itself, and being in the room for that was just this kind of like unexpected hour of complete wonder, of being, really sucked into the world, of the film that she was writing about, and that moment in her life. And I told her that this should be required reading for anyone who wants to go into not even just production design, but movie making in general, because it paints this beautiful picture of, what it takes to design a film, but also what it takes to navigate some of the complex relationships you deal with on set. And also, what does it mean for you as a human being when you're on film? How does that period of time affect your own life? And how does your life reflect what ends up on screen? So I just think, she's a poetic soul. And we're also lucky to know her and to have that story.
Yes.
And I know she's writing more as well about her time with Charles and Ray Eames and some of the other films she worked on. So excited to have that as a sub-series within the podcast. So I'm curious, this is kind of a big question, but what are your goals for PD360 and the future of PDC, and what will it take to achieve them?
Oof, this is a tough one. Okay, I can I'll start from a more practical place, because this is where we're at. It's the moment of truth. In order to be a functioning organization, we need a little bit more structure and more financial stability. And we've been sort of running for years with just a lot of goodwill, me and Kalina paying for things, a bunch of great volunteers that are helping as much as they possibly can, but are still volunteering, and a wonderful, very generous community. But we've sort of reached a point where our structure no longer holds the incredible impact that we have brought to be. So we are trying to restructure our organization a little bit so that it is sustainable, to be honest, because it is just a lot of work for myself, Kalina, for our volunteers, for our board, as you know. And we will, of course, continue to work diligently, but we need a little bit of support.
Yes.
So I would say for me, even though it sounds a bit practical and not as maybe, philosophical, which I have many other, hopes for the future, but right now it's all about, we're making this big push it's really like a 2.0. It's a serious organization, and we need our members to help support us. We're hoping to have more support from other organizations, from vendors. We have great sponsors for our various events, but right now we kind of all have to come together and agree that such great value from a beautiful community also has to be sustained.
Absolutely.
It's the moment of where we're gonna be either gonna make it or not, in a way. And for us to survive, we need everybody to come together. I mean,
Mm.
that's as simple as I can put it.
I'm
Uh,
always thinking like, wow, we've done so much with so little. If we had just a little bit more financial
Yes.
stability, how far we could go. And I think, of course, we have 1,500 members, which is an incredible number from, like basically every country on the globe. But we need members to be a bit more engaged in order to really affect change in the industry. So to continue on that, like, hey, everybody should come together. Like, we all need to advocate for our community and our profession. Even people who are perhaps sometimes on the sidelines or are too busy, which of course we all take projects and then we disappear into them. And it's really difficult to try to balance your organizing work or any passions outside of your project that you're working on. But changing people's consciousness a little bit to know that the work that we're doing is kind of just as important as a day or two on set. I think we're slowly getting there. And it was amazing to see in this past year's gathering, our second edition, how many designers actually took off work, which is basically unheard of, right? It's never, ever done. And to try to persuade people to do it, people don't even leave for their best friends' weddings or funerals, right? And a lot of designers agreed to come and take time off from work. So did I, and I think this is part of the message. Support us, of course, but in supporting us, you're supporting the advocacy for yourselves, right? That doing organizing work and contributing to your community is at the end of the day elevating all of us.
Absolutely. And it really does make the world a better place. And I really I want to take a moment here on record to thank you both for what you have done, because it is changing the world of production design, which is in turn changing the world and making it a better place. And I go back to this image of sitting in the ancient theater at Greece and the circle, the strength of a circle. It's something I think about a lot. And this kind of ongoing bond of shared ideas, and this cycle of how what you're doing today will affect generations to come. To think 10 years ago, a little more than 10 years ago, such a place did not exist where production designers could come together and share ideas and share technical know-how, and also their, cry with each other if needed. And it's a really profound impact,
Mhm.
from that coffee shop in New York where you two met. I mean, here we are today having this amazing conversation, and it's really inspiring. So, thank you both. Now, to end our conversation today on a hopeful note, I'm going to ask you to share what your hope is for the future of production design. And Kalina, I'd love to start with you.
I can't wait to see where production design will go in the next 10 years. That's all I have to say.
Very good.
Curious, staying curious, staying curious.
Staying curious indeed.
It was interesting. We had a gathering. One of our last gathering panels was called The Future of Production Design. It was a really intriguing panel. We tried to have people with very diverse points of view. And what I took from that is that I think we always have to engage. And I'm not saying engage in the community. I'm saying engage in everything that's coming. AI, engage. VFX, learn more. Like, I don't know, labor issues, learn more. Mental well-being, delve into those issues. Because I think that what happens to us when we start working is from day one, it's already way too much to handle. And so there's too much on your plate. You're running around, you're trying to survive, and you don't have the time to really go deeper on issues that you perceive as secondary. So, our call to arms to designers to like learn more about VFX or learn more about virtual production. Be more intuitive about your crew's well-being, or anything that people are speaking about that is happening, whether technologically or just in the workspace environment. Consider it your responsibility to educate yourself, be more knowledgeable about it, because that's how we all gain more power.
Yeah.
So I would just say, I feel like the world is getting more distracted, our attention is being fracked, and there's so much going on, and you maybe just want to like do your job, do it well, and go home. But I actually think the opposite is what's going to make us prosper. Be intrigued by everything that's happening on set. Sit in on all of the meetings. Like, you're hearing about a new technology, jump in. And these type of events like the Gathering and Production Design Week, that's where that energy is going to generate, to be more engaged, more knowledgeable, and more curious. So in a way, kind of connects back to your first question, Alex.
I was going to say, you gave us the perfect full circle. See, circles are important.
Circles. I love circles. I'm with you on that.
Well, thank you for your thoughtful response, and thank you both so much. I look forward to having you each back on the podcast where we can dive into your individual film careers. But this conversation was really great, and I think it's a fantastic way to not only open the podcast, but also celebrate the launch of PD 360 and the future of the collective. So thank you both for the generosity of your time today. It was great talking with you.
Thank you so much.
And that brings us to the end of our conversation today. I'd like to take a moment to recognize my co-producer, Gavin Mosier, and the composer of our original score, Nathan Avakian. Don't forget to subscribe and stay tuned for our next conversation in this ongoing odyssey into the world of film design. Until next time, be kind, stay creative, and thanks for listening.